Hello, parents. This is Arundel County Public Schools, and you're listening to the Maryland Crabs Podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
This is John Frenay with the Maryland Crabs, and I am flying solo again this week. And I was able to jump up to the fourth floor of the Arundel Center and speak with new county executive Steuart Pittman after about a month in office. He's had some bumps, he's had some good times, and we wanted to see if it was all that he expected and what we can expect down the road. Things I specifically wanted to talk about were the budget, the scepter of raising taxes, his rejection of the 287G plan, and his change of heart with the detainee housing program that we have with ICE, and just sort of whatever else may come up. So hang out. We've got about 40 minutes with County Executive Steuart Pittman.
Very few things in life are so precious and so irreplaceable that we all must do our part to protect them. The Chesapeake Bay is one of those things. You can do your part by contributing to the Chesapeake Bay and Endangered Species Fund. It's that little line item you'll see at the very end of your Maryland tax return. Any amount you give makes a difference, and it's tax deductible. I'm Peter Francho, Maryland Comptroller. Our bay and rivers thank you. Learn more about the Chesapeake Bay Trust at cbtrust.org.
We're back up here on the fourth floor of the Arundel Center again, this time with County Executive Steuart Pittman. Last time we were together, you were candidate Steuart Pittman a few weeks before the election. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the fourth floor.
Absolutely. It's nice. Nice touch in the elevator, the smell of bacon.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's because they're making it downstairs and it comes up.
Do I get like a voucher?
No, you have to pay. It's not that expensive down there. It's great. It's good food.
Oh, no. It was smelling good, though. So how's it going? You've been here about a month.
Good. Yeah. I mean, we're moving forward on the things we said we were going to do and putting the team together.
Do you find that it's what you kind of expected? I mean, you're coming from a sidearm political position. I mean, you've been a community organizer for years and you've been involved in the different commissions throughout the county. So you've had a side eye into politics, but now you're in the heat of it. I mean, is this pretty much everything that you thought it would be? Have there been any surprises?
No big surprises. I've been impressed by the department heads and the people who work for county government. You know, all of us on the outside, we always kind of roll our eyes and think, yeah, folks in the government aren't working. They're just got an easy job.
Just the federal governments.
It's mostly the federal government. But we complain. Me as an advocate was a complainer. That's part of the job. And when you're on the inside and you're hearing directly from those folks, there's still things people can do better, and there's still things we need to get done. But we got really good people working for the county.
That's one thing that I've said to any number of different executives, whether it be the mayor or the actually even the governor when I spoke with him, and former county executive Steve Shue said, just because somebody worked for your predecessor, quote, your enemy, your opponent, whatever it is, doesn't mean they're bad people, because they're looking to make a living in the and when you think about it, who wants to hire a slacker?
Right.
So that makes sense. And I will say that I think it's been pretty impressive that you've not come in and made the wholehearted changes.
I mean, some people could say that's impressive. Some people could say they're disappointed, but it doesn't really matter to me what they say. What I found is that most of those folks are not political. It doesn't matter who they were hired. They're there to do their job. I mean, there may be some exceptions to that. And clearly within the county executi's office, that's your personal staff.
That's your little nucleus that you've
changes. And then there are some department heads where, the priorities are different. But by and large, they're not very political people. They're really about doing the job they were trained to do. They're professionals.
Well, I mean, the only thing that you've changed so far outside of your executive office suite up here is really the fire department, right? At this point.
Yeah.
And Tricia will come in what, 2 weeks? I think?
Yeah. And she was here this past weekend. And
I know she dropped the puck at the Black Bears.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get to drop the puck. We were both there. She and El Tamari, the chief of police, got to drop pucks, but I had a resolution that I got to read. We actually approached from opposite sides, and it was a great game. I mean, if you've never been to one of those games, these guys are really good.
I've not. They've never been on my radar, and they just have come, and I think it's kind of neat. It's minor league hockey.
Yeah.
And I think we're so fortunate to have the Bowie Bay Sox over in Bowie, just over the border in Prince George's County. And I didn't realize that we had it up there at Piney Orchard. They play Piney Orchard, right?
Piney Orchard, and they sold out, which, it's 400 and some people, but it was full and it was fun. I mean, it was good entertainment.
Well, that's really cool. One thing I have talked, I've spoken with a couple people that are, we'll say, political appointees. They are appointees and they're left over. And some of them are somewhat concerned. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, when I come in, is the it's the phone ringing? Oh no, is that the hammer? Is that, are you planning changes as you move on, or are you pretty much saying, okay, this is good and we're going to see that everybody performs, or what's your mindset
I think
on that?
Unfortunately, it's unavoidable because you can't go to somebody and say maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, in some cases, we really are learning more before we make a decision. And then there are other cases where, we're pretty sure that we're going to be going in a different direction, but it takes time to make the change. And there's just no way around that, the uncertainty in this time for them.
Well, have you had a chance to have a full-on, I don't know whether they address them as cabinet meetings here?
Not full cabinet meetings yet. We're going to be doing the same thing that Steve Shue did. And when I met with him after the election, he encouraged me to do these core groups, these sectors, so that you don't bring in everybody at once. You bring them in groups. So you have land use, you have public safety, you have health and human services.
Okay.
And that way, where the collaboration is most likely, the people are around the table and do that on a regular basis.
Okay, so it's not a giant committee going 19 million different ways.
The county has a lot of departments. Yeah,
it certainly does. How was the transition?
It was good.
I mean, you guys slugged it out in the campaign,
right?
You threw the barbs and you took the barbs and everything else, but it was a good transition for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, we were hard at work. We had an office over at the Arundel Center. We actually had a little conference room that we were working out of to do meetings. And we still had our campaign office until pretty close to the end. We were kicked out of there about a week before we took office here. We managed to get our job done, and we made calls when we needed information and met with the appropriate people. No problems at all.
Good. That's good to see. All right. Well, you created some waves a couple weeks ago when you had a meeting down in the conference room downstairs, and you said that you're true to your word with the inaugural speech that you're going to give KISS 287G goodbye.
Right.
And you surprised a number of people by keeping I don't want to say the second half of it, but the additional program where we're housing ICE detainees in Ordnance Road. For those that didn't hear or didn't know, what was your the 287G program? And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to really simplify this.
Okay, good.
This takes the correction officers only, not police officers on the street, not the sheriffs or anything like that. It's just the correction officers that when somebody is brought into the facility, Jennifer Road,
right,
they have been trained by ICE, the federal government, to interrogate people to get an idea of whether they may be here illegally or not. Mm-hmm. And if indeed they believe they are, then they would in turn basically tip off ICE saying, hey, we think we've got this man or woman that we believe is here illegally. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, ICE is responsible for detaining them, saying, yeah, we're not interested or whatever it is.
Yeah, and ICE can't have them until their crime that they were brought in for.
They've got to be adjudicated through here.
Which could mean that they pay a fine and they go out. It could mean that they should never have been arrested in the first place, and they're not likely to be fully charged with the crime. Or it could mean that they go to jail. If they're a violent criminal, they're very unlikely for our criminal justice system to let them loose. So they end up at Jennifer Road and they go to jail and they await their hearings. And then if they're convicted, they serve their time. And the way it's always been during the Obama administration and even before that is that there's been a program so that ICE knows who's in jail. ICE knows when they're likely to get released, and ICE is notified. So ICE comes and gets them, and then they get deported. In fact, Barack Obama was very big on making sure that violent criminals that were here illegally got deported. There was a big program, the Criminal Alien Program. And that's what we relied on until last year, the ICE's Criminal Alien Program. And that's what every other county except 2 in the state of Maryland rely on, is that not only does ICE get the information from their live scan print when they're first arrested, mm-hmm. They know if they have a print on that person, a way to identify them, that an illegal alien just got arrested. But they also have people who come to our jail at Jennifer Road, and they do the exact same investigation, the exact same interview about their immigration status that our people were doing under 287G. So the only difference...
We're not handing them the information.
The only difference is that the people we pay, our detention officers who are overworked and we can't seem to fill the positions that we have, are doing ICE's job under 287G. And without 287G, ICE does ICE's job. And I'm meeting with ICE tomorrow, actually, and I talked to them on the phone about what we're doing. They understand this is not sanctuary. This is not interfering with ICE doing their job. This is simply county government doing county's job, ICE doing ICE's job, and we cooperate.
It's a convenient talking point to call it a sanctuary county.
Yeah.
And I understand. And I mean, to your point, I mean,
you know what I think is funny is that the organization that has been the most active against this is called the Maryland Campaign for Liberty. They're based in Cecil County. Cecil County, I guess, is a sanctuary county as well because
I've seen
they don't do 287G.
I've seen your picture on that with the barbed wire and the...
Right. Welcoming MS-13,
right.
The billboard and all that good stuff. So these are, outside folks who are doing a petition drive. They make it seem like it's county residents, and there are some county residents, but it's these folks out in Cecil County.
Personally, when you said that you were going to get rid of this back during the campaign and how it was a bad thing, I mean, I was ambivalent on it. And then as I turned around, I'm sitting here thinking about how many times I'm speaking with a gentleman in a couple weeks that was falsely arrested, jailed for 9 months, and ultimately released. And I'm thinking, okay, so what if somebody comes through the system, they're identified as an illegal immigrant, they are found not guilty, or there's not enough evidence, or the police got the wrong guy, or whatever it may be. And this person rightfully goes free and should have a completely clean slate, which is not always the case. It's actually usually never the case because the record that you did go through it is there. But then again, now all of a sudden we've found a crime. Mm-hmm. As opposed to...
well, it gets even worse than that. If you think about if you live in a neighborhood where there are a lot of immigrants, and you have friends or family who are undocumented, or you're undocumented, and a gangster, a gangbanger, we used to call them in Chicago, MS-13, for instance, that's based in El Salvador, they want money from you. That's how they exist, extortion. Especially if you're running a business. They want payments.
Right.
And their threat is deportation, the fear of deportation. And people don't necessarily understand all the details of 287G, but there's a fear that this MS-13 person will plant a call framing you for a crime. You'll go into the detention center and you'll be caught and deported. So that's the fear, is it gives leverage to MS-13. They use that. I mean, people say this about, well, back eye. I'll just stick with MS-13 and say that's the only one that we're concerned about because that's the largest gang that's a Latino gang. It's much smaller than some of the other gangs that we're fighting in the county, but it exists on extortion payments, and the fear that they need is the fear of deportation.
Well, that's their tool.
Yeah,
that's well. I mean, I think that eliminating that is probably a good thing for the county. It takes us out of a very awkward position, and I think it also. The information is available to ICE. ICE is not able to – we're not impeding ICE's job anyway. Yeah. And we were actually unique. They talk about 2 other counties doing it. Well, I was at Mako for a few days with other county executives. Right. The 2 other counties that are doing it, their county executives don't like it either. The difference is that in those counties, the sheriff has the power to sign the agreement with ICE. So it's the sheriffs who are trying to make a political statement in those counties that started the 287G programs there. So I think we're the only county where a county executive has thought it was a wise thing to have our staff doing the work of ICE unpaid. Right. And the other half of this was basically the hotel in Arundel, where ICE has detained people from all over the country. Mm-hmm. And they need places to keep them while their deportation proceedings are continuing on and everything goes through the legal channels. They could be housed at some vacant space at at Ordnance Road up in Glen Burnie. And that was something that the federal government would reimburse the county. And last year it was about $4 million. Yeah. And last year's the only year. Yeah. It's a new program as well. It's a year old. And that's a program that you decided to keep. Mm-hmm. It's obviously a little bit of revenue to the county. And the wrench that you threw into that works was that you were going to put part of the money that received from the federal government back toward representation to some of the detainees. Mm-hmm. I guess my question would be, when during the campaign where Anne Arundel County needs funds, I mean, we need funds to pay the teachers, we need funds to pay the firefighters and more staff and everything else. With the detainees that are there, they may be from the Texas border, they may be from California, they may be from anywhere. I'd venture to say that few, if any of them, are county residents or were county residents. Why are we doing that as opposed to?
Why do we care about them at all? Or why are we helping them?
Oh, you son of a...
Well, yeah, no, it is. I mean, these are humanitarian issues when it's taking place within the borders of our county. They're county residents once they get here. And they're also being managed. Their lives are under the control of our staff. So what changed my mind, because I did say during the campaign that I was not comfortable with using our jail and making money to enforce Donald Trump's immigration policy. You know, I believe Ronald Reagan had it right when he created a path to citizenship for some of these people who had ended up here illegally. They come when there are jobs. They don't come when there aren't jobs.
Right.
You know, immigration was way down during the recession. We have jobs in Anne Arundel County. We have jobs in this country. And people are coming here. It's the way it's always been through history. And through history, there's been this pendulum on immigration. And eventually we assimilate people and we give them a path to citizenship. So I believe that's eventually going to happen. Right now we're at a swing of the pendulum that's saying, you know, round them up and kick them out. At least some people believe that. The president believes that. So I'm not a big fan of that policy. I'll be honest about that. But I believe in the rule of law, and we comply with the law whether or not we like it. So that's why we're cooperating with ICE, because we're not going to stand in the way and become a sanctuary. However, the ordinance detention facility is a good facility, well run, and I visited it. The reason I visited it and even considered this is that a number of pastors had been there and told me, you know what? If you close that place down, those people are going to get sent to the facility over or by Ocean City on the Eastern Shore, or even worse, down to Mississippi or Texas, where they're warehousing people, and it's inhumane. This is humane. It's low security. And because it's low security, by the way, our contract with ICE says nobody goes there who has a criminal record, even in their country, because we're not taking criminals. We're only going to take people who are awaiting their immigration hearing in Baltimore. Okay. Many of them is for asylum, not all. And it's not illegal to come into the United States seeking asylum.
No, absolutely not.
So I made the decision to keep it open after visiting it and even talking to some of the people there who had been at other detention facilities who were begging to keep this open. You know, they knew that there was a possibility of it closing, and they feared being sent to one of these other detention facilities. And so I became pretty sympathetic to that. It unlike 287G, we're getting paid to do this. So we're not having to pay our staff to do the work for nothing. Right. We're actually getting compensated. Right. So it's not costing our taxpayers to keep that open.
Well, what do the detainees, I believe, get legal representation through their process, don't they? Or is that?
No, and that's been a big problem, not only for the detainees, but for ICE, who's trying to process folks. And they have people, because they don't have a lawyer and they don't know American law. Some of them don't even speak English. Many of them don't. And they're from all over the world, by the way. 47 countries.
Right. It's people. Not just Mexico or Central America.
Right. But what I've been told by the University of Maryland Immigration Law Clinic and others is that when people have some access to a lawyer, many of them make a decision to not pursue the asylum that they were seeking because they find out they don't have a case. But the ones that really do have a case are much more likely to get approved. So basically, if we believe in the rule of law and we want others to see that we really believe in our laws, our immigration laws, I think it's appropriate for there to be legal representation whenever possible. So that is efficient and it's fair.
Do you have an idea of how much of the, assuming $4 million is consistent, that would be allocated toward the legal defense of them?
It would be very small compared to the $4 million. I mean, what I said when we did our press conference was that I wanted to be accountable for how we spend that money, because the county council actually passed a resolution insisting that if we ever do this before we started, that we need to account for how we spend ICE's money. And so I have actually asked the budget office if legally we could have it a segregated fund. That doesn't quite work because we're using the money for our own purposes, but I will segregate it in the accounting so that we say where the money's going. And I want it to be used for public safety, for detention, which we have underfunded and understaffed, and then some small part of it to work with local nonprofits who coordinate the attorneys to be able to do this representation.
Right.
And I can't promise it's going to happen because the county council has to approve it. It goes into the budget, and the county council could kill it.
Right. And I know that Nathan Bulke had introduced legislation.
Yeah, he will vote against it,
on Monday.
And I suspect that some other council members might vote against. The resolution doesn't have a lot of meaning because the resolution is just saying that when we do our budget, we don't want to do something. That's fine. The decision gets made in the budget process. I mean, he understands that.
Right. How is your relationship with the council? I mean, you've got a very favorable council, unlike former county executive Shu, who had a 4-3 opposite side. You've got to successfully flip that council. Now you're all on the same political side.
Well, we got 4-3 politically, but I can honestly say I like every single one of them. I mean, I have had meals with them. I have had drinks with them. And in fact, we made a point of getting folks together before we all took office, Democrats and Republicans. And, Nathan Bulke was the one that I thought I wasn't going to like. I thought this guy's really partisan, right? He was the chair of the Republican Party for the county, and he's pretty outspoken. And I got to say, I like the guy. We hit it off. And so while we will probably go head to head a fair amount, and same with Jessica Hare and same with Amanda Fiedler, the 3 Republicans on the council. I like all 3 of them, and we're going to communicate if nothing else.
Well, going head to head is part of good government.
Yep.
To be honest with you, I think you've got to have the discussion, and that's something that you're doing. Actually, this will air the days after you've just finished them, but I've got to commend you on the 287G. You've taken some heat. Any number of ways between the billboards and the social media and the newspaper and everything else. True to your campaign, you're going out and saying, hey, let's bring it to the people. And you just had 2 open sessions. You had it up north in Glen Burnie and then down in Southern High School, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're open for that.
Yeah. No, it was very important to me, even though I'd already made the decision on 287G. I was hearing from people who thought I'd made a mistake, and I really want to have those conversations face to face. So when you sit down with people, whether it's a group or individually, and you listen, I learn. I mean, I really want to understand why people believe that we're at risk of these folks getting out of jail.
Opioids, where are we going on that? I mean, it's still a huge problem. We're still seeing the deaths. Arguably, we've got some pretty good success with the safe stations. I don't know that throwing money at the problem is the solution. And I know at one point that you considered Ordnance Road being a potential use for additional beds for recovery.
Yeah. I mean, I've said all along that we have to make sure that people can get treatment when they need it and want it. And we don't have that yet. Nobody has enough treatment options yet. And fortunately, the federal government and the state are going to have additional grant money that's going to be available. What's really important to me, and when we bring on our health officer, which we've had a problem, we've not had a permanent health officer in a long time. We've had acting. We've had 10 in 10 years. So leadership problem at the Department of Health. That's going to change. I believe I've got the right person. I can't say who it is yet. Okay. Because we haven't announced him yet. But
did I get the job?
Sorry. But it's as important as any job in the county right now. And not only because of opioids, but so much of what government does is about health. And, there's a Healthy Anne Arundel committee that it hasn't met for a long time. We'll reconvene. But we can bring together the private sector, various departments of government, and we can look at almost everything we do in the county and measure it by its impact on public health. Opioids are part of that, but
certainly you don't realize what the health department does. I mean, you've got the rabies, the oral rabies vaccine program. You've got the stop smoking, and the sun thing that they do. And I've been astounded by some of the facts that have come out of the health department as far as Hispanics are more apt to die of a lung cancer and skin cancer and everything else with the smoking and the sun. And you're absolutely right. Opioids is a problem within that, and it's a department that needs to work with all the other public safety departments. It needs to work with the prisons, and it needs to work with the police and the fire and the EMS. And
it goes even further. I mean, when we talk about parks and rec and outdoor recreation, that makes people healthier. And when we talk about sidewalks so people can walk, that makes people healthier. There's so many, and the environment. and getting people outdoors. I mean, one of the scary statistics nationally to me is that I was told by a health policy research person recently that America's life expectancy is likely to drop 20 countries in the next time that they assess that and have those numbers. We're going to drop below China. And that's scary stuff to me, that in America, the United States of America, that we're becoming less and less healthy and living less long. And the people who are really smart about this, and the great news is that Democrats and Republicans agree on this, that they understand that if we're going to improve the lives of Americans and Anne Arundel County people, we have to look at everything from the perspective of health.
That makes all the sense in the world.
But on opioids, Crownsville is a place where we have to keep the organizations that are there running. We cannot lose the Crownsville Hospital Center grounds, and so we're going to move forward on acquiring that, work with the state, and secure the future for those organizations. And I hope make it a place where we can even expand treatment options. And they can't all be at Crownsville, but that's a good start. And it's always difficult to cite those facilities. The community at Crownsville embraces it.
Right. Well, you talked about acquiring Crownsville now, and through the campaign you had a lot of, well, I don't want to say lofty promises, but I mean, we talked about adding teachers, we talked about getting them caught up on their step increases, we talked about the understaffing in the fire department and the police department, the opioid thing, the beds and whatnot. A lot of people have said that
same promises that Steve Shue made in terms of increasing pay and increasing numbers on the three big departments.
And the last time we talked, you did speak about how you felt that you could do that, with the additional income without raising taxes. You thought that was those were promises within the means and stuff like that. Do you still stand by that at this point? Now that you have been able to dig into the...
Yeah, I've had some budget briefings, haven't I? Some numbers. I mean, what I said was that our revenues have been increasing close to $50 million a year for the last few years. And as long as the economy is good, that's likely to continue. Right. And that my hope is that we can get most of this done through that revenue. I mean, unlike the county executive, I did not sign the no tax increase pledge. That I would not make a promise about the revenue side of the budget, and that we're going to do budget hearings in which we're going to look at what the departments have asked for, what the needs are, in some cases what the voters asked for in the election, I think, and where the revenues could come from to make that happen and have options for people to look at. So, I mean, we do need additional revenue. If we're going to do even just the school board's budget, which was $73 million new dollars, and I was shown some numbers that do have us close to $50 million in additional revenue, but then 30-some million of that is already committed based on obligations that are new this year. For instance, because we've done a lot of capital improvements, we have higher debt service, and we have other obligations to pensions and healthcare that it's not up to me to decide whether to meet those. We meet those. So the new revenue is not as big as we would have liked, as anybody would like. So we have to come up with revenue sources if we're going to do the school board budget, if we're going to do police, fire, and a lot of these other things. And there are lots of options for how to do that. There's everything from impact fees on developers to, we have to look at property tax and income tax as well. Those are the major sources. Sure. And then, of course, we have to look at cuts.
Right. But again, the school district, you've also got the Kerwin Commission recommendations that are coming down. That would be a fairly significant hit on the county resources as well, should that go through. I know that's been delayed through this session anyhow, so it's going to come up, I guess, for passage in 2020.
But hopefully also an investment of state money. So the state says the big part of the Kerwin Commission is the state will step up and play a greater role, but they won't give us the money if we don't step up as well. Right. It's like any grant where you have to match it. So some of these decisions about trying to meet the school board's budget and their increased revenues, if we do so, we'll actually be doubling the money by getting more state money.
Right. Still got your boot?
It's in my office on the shelf, yeah.
With the duct tape?
In fact, I not only have the duct tape around the boot that we used in the ad, but during the holidays, I was given a lot of duct tape. People thought that was an appropriate gift to give me. So I have about 6 rolls of duct tape next to the boot.
That's going to be one of those things. You'll be getting that for years and years and years. It was the duct tape there. When was the last time you mucked a stall? I know I saw you shoveling behind the Budweisers at the military bowl with the Mayor Buckley, but are you still mucking stalls? Are you still grounded? Your wife and kids keeping you grounded?
I did have to go. It was about a month ago, and the person who was supposed to do weekends wasn't able to come, and so my wife was stuck mucking stalls, and I joined her for just a few stalls, and it feels good. It's a very meditative activity. I highly recommend it to anybody who's never cleaned out a horse stall. You go in there with your pitchfork and your wheelbarrow, and you just...
Would you like to give out your home address to see if anybody wants to come down? Come down. Let's keep Anne Arundel County healthy. Come on down and clean.
Well, I taught Mayor Buckley how to do it. It took a little bit, it's especially difficult on the brick streets with the pitchfork. It gets caught. But we managed to pick up the Clydesdale poops and city-county cooperation, and that was a lot of fun.
You look good at that with the little skinny tie and everything.
Yeah. I asked Gavin Buckley where he gets those modern skinny black ties, and he bought me one. And then I don't know if you were there on New Year's Eve, but I went down and helped him do the countdown. And he actually bought me a hat and sunglasses. So we were the Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers. I did see that. That's right. Well, you've got a good relationship with the city, and I know that your initial campaign manager was Mayor Buckley's campaign manager, and Scott Travers.
We also have Janice Hayes Williams, who was working for the mayor and has now come over and overseeing all of our constituent service. So
you poaching anybody else from the mayor's office?
Well, I think I left some bruises on that one, so I'll try to stay away from there for a while.
In your article that you wrote for the Capitol last week, you talk about you want to talk about the community, not the fear mongering and whatnot, and just something that you had mentioned. I know in one of your commercials and through the campaign, you criticized former county executive Shue and the expeditions, the vehicles.
Oh, right. Yes.
The vehicles.
Yes.
And perhaps one of the best lines I've ever heard in a political commercial was that we had plenty of space in the back seat.
Old SUVs, right?
In the old SUV for the county executive. Then with sort of a nod, if you will, to former county executive John Leopold.
Yeah, I think this wasn't an ad. It was a video we took right before the debate, standing out in front of Maryland Hall. Where
it was great.
I was challenging the county executive to say to my face about taxes and about spending and some of the things that in the debate what he had said, in his ads, and all political theater, of course, but maybe effective for the folks who watched it. But those two SUVs that they bought for the security detail were the $60,000 Ford Expeditions. Right. And they had the $30,000 Ford Explorer. So it was very funny when after I won the election and Chief Altamari called me about security, which of course, like everybody, I'm reluctant. Why do I need security detail and all that? And he said, but the good news is we have the smaller vehicles. I understand you might have a problem with the larger SUVs.
Right.
and so they're driving me around the smaller one. And there was a joke around the police department that they were actually going to get a black Prius. For Steuart Pittman to drive me around it. But they've not done that yet.
That wouldn't be too bad. Now, you did mention that, do you drive yourself?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. I mean, I'm still uncomfortable with it. And I've talked to other county executives, and I talked to Steve Shue about this. And
uncomfortable with what? Driving yourself or being driven?
I'm not comfortable with the whole notion that my life is more important than everybody else's. That why should I have protection more than the average citizen? Because I don't really believe that there are people out there who want to harm me.
Okay,
maybe I'm naive.
Let me interrupt you. You haven't gone through your budget yet, but I spoke with, again, former county executive Laura Newman. Mm-hmm. And when she first came in, we talked about her security detail, and she initially, that was one of the things that she said that she wanted to, look at getting rid of. But then,
did she?
Then it was, and she had the white
SUV.
Yeah, it was
really?
The Explorer.
No kidding.
But she had said that she was, I'm trying to remember who the chief at the time was. It may have been Shanahan for a hot
and
minute.
Then Davis.
Hot minute there. Yeah. She brought Kevin in.
Yeah.
I think it may have, when she first got in, but they detailed the threats, and she said, absolutely, I do need it. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised. Again, probably I'm coming from the same mindset as you. It's like, well, who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
And I would love to do a video with you, like out on the street, and say, hey, just a man. Hey, do you know who our county executive is? And just see if anybody recognizes you. I mean,
well, it was funny when I was with Gavin behind the Clydesdales. People were hooting and hollering about us shoveling the manure because it was so funny and everything with the wheelbarrow. But you hear Gavin's name a lot more often than you hear my name, and because he's the mayor of Annapolis. We were in Annapolis, right. But still, that a lot of people don't know who the county executive is. That some people don't know what county they live in.
So you do drive yourself sometimes. You are driven sometimes as well,
right?
And you do still maintain the security detail, and you're just a little conflicted about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a little bit about
I'm not
that.
the first, so no.
Now your kids don't have a security detail.
No,
it's not like
no,
Secret
no.
Service here. I mean, they don't have like cops in the back of the fourth grade schoolroom.
No, however, Inauguration Day was kind of fun because my mother, who had a bad hip and has just replaced it since then, they brought 2 vehicles. And they drove my mother to the inauguration in a big black SUV. And I think she got a kick out of that.
Yeah, your kids weren't having a whole lot of that inauguration thing. They were like, "Yeah, where's the chips?
They're way too cool for any of this
Where's
stuff.
the chips in the chips in the TV?"
9 years old,
Well, that's great. You've got 2 twin boys.
Twin 9-year-olds, yeah. 3rd grade, Davidson.
They keep you on the track. Did you find a home for the pig?
No. I believe that somebody raised that pig as a pet because it was very friendly and is a boar, actually. 600 pounds now, they say. And
wait a minute. I smelled bacon in the elevator on the way.
Well, I mean, my wife knew we weren't going to handle this pig, so she called up Dina Tice, who does farm raised meat, a neighbor, and who also does 4-H. And they knew how to actually capture a pig, and it's been over at their place. But animal control was trying to find the owner. It hasn't happened. So now the pig is up for adoption. You can call animal control if you want a 600-pound boar.
I don't know. You got to get that through your landlord in the lease there. I mean,
they also say that boar meat doesn't taste very good. I didn't know that.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I'm not quite that exotic, but for those that are wondering what this was, there was all of a sudden a 600-pound pig showed up in Davidsonville.
On our farm. Yeah.
And the county executive's wife called and said, which I'm sure the police felt was a prank call. "Hi, this is the county executive's wife. What do you do with a 600-pound pig?"
Yeah, I don't think she described herself as the county executive's wife.
But it's, what do you do with a 600-pound pig? And basically everyone said, "Yeah, we don't quite know either." So it's been housed, as you said, next door. And if anybody would like a pig,
call animal control.
Animal control, will they waive the adoption fees? Probably.
It might depend on whether you plan to eat the pig or keep it as a pet. I'm not sure.
Tell you good luck as you wrestle with the legislature that's in town tomorrow, with all the traffic and everything else that comes with it. And good luck with your first budget, which is coming on. And your first state of the county is what, June?
Well, there's the budget. The budget address is the main one, which is May. So I look forward to seeing everybody at the budget hearings. I'll just leave it at that. Come on out and say.
Are you going to do those regionally as well?
So the county charter says that we have to have at least 2 hearings before we do our budget.
Right.
And there was,
and that was a recent change.
Yeah, 2016. It was Andrew Pruski proposed it and got it onto the ballot. And so I'm going to take those very seriously. In fact, I need them because I need to hear what people have to say. And we'll have a lot of data for people to look at when they go into those. Hopefully, easily understood and absorbed data about what the departments are asking for, what it costs, and so we will do at least 2, but we are looking at the possibility of maybe some more so it's easier for people to get to.
Do you anticipate them being here in the Arundel Center, or are you going to take them on the road?
No, if we do 2, we'll do one in North County and one sort of more central south. But if we do more, we'll spread them out. Okay.
Now, in your travels over the county, what do you like better, North County or South County or Central County or West County? Or
yeah, right.
Do you have a preference? If you had to leave your farm, where would you look to buy a house?
You probably would be surprised by this, but yesterday I took my 2 little boys out on their bicycles on the B&A Trail up north of Glen Burnie and north. And we rode from a park to an ice cream store and then back again. And we were, riding through these neighborhoods of really moderately priced houses. And I felt, I could totally see living in one of those neighborhoods. I mean, just regular working people. Glen Burnie, where there's not too much activity, but there's still enough people around to have neighbors and good community. So, but I actually believe that North County and South County have a lot more in common than people think. A lot of people have lived there for a long, long time, and fairly conservative folks. And then West County is more new. You've got people who've moved in more recently. And then you've got Annapolis, where it's a mix of people who've been here a long time and people who moved here because it's becoming a hip town.
Yeah, where that's Gavin's problem.
Right.
Are you a biker?
Bicycler.
Yeah, bicyclist.
I'm
We're not going to see you in leather chaps and a Harley anytime soon.
I would ride my bike from the barn to the house and back and forth. For years, because it's a little bit too far. It takes too long to walk, and it seems like a waste to drive a car. But I've not been a big, off-road or on-road.
All right, I'll throw a challenge out to you, and I did it last year. Someone threw a challenge out to me. The Lifeline 100. It's
100 miles.
Technically, yes. It's Anne Arundel County Parks and Rexham Park. Yeah, Rexham Parks. They go backwards in here. It's with that and the police department and Bike Annapolis and Anne Arundel put it together, and it can be 100 miles, but they've got 65 mile and a 35 mile. And I did it last year. I did the 35 mile, and it started up at Kinder Park Farm, went all the way down to Arnold Station, up to the airport, and back to Kinder Park Farm. It was fantastic. We went through some of the neighborhoods that
I think I could survive 35 miles. That does sound fun.
That you did that, and behind Marley Station Mall and the airport, you could do a loop around the airport and get an extra 10. Next year, I'm going to try to do 65. I don't know. Putting my fat butt on a bike for 65 miles is tough, but
that does sound fun.
The impetus to keep going was when I was passed by a girl on a unicycle. So it was like, okay, oh hell no.
But a bicycle is a great way to see the county. I mean, you go a little bit slower and you look around and you take it all in.
It is, and that's really a beautiful one. I mean, it was all trail, the one that I did, and not road because I'm not that confident on my own. But it highlights all the county parks.
Oh,
and it hits on some of the longer ones. They get down into Deal and some of the smaller little parks in Edgewater and everything else, which is kind of neat.
I'm going to try to do that.
So I'll race you in October. So
I didn't say I was going to race. I said I was going to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much this morning. I appreciate your time and good luck. And I'd like to check back in with you at some other point. If you ever have anything for me, let me know.
Thanks, John. I love doing this. It's fun.
Join Anne Arundel Medical Center Foundation on Saturday, April 27th, 2019 at our Denim and Diamonds Bash in Annapolis. Denim and Diamonds is a fun evening under the stars featuring fabulous cuisine and gourmet food trucks, live and silent auction, and a live band. Last year, AAMC cared for more than 2,000 patients in our emergency departments suffering from mental illness or addiction. Help us expand much-needed inpatient and outpatient programs and services for your community. For tickets and sponsorships, visit aamcdenimanddiamonds.org. Special thanks to our platinum sponsors, AAMC medical staff, the Chesapeake Bayhawks, Comcast, the Evan K. Thallenberg family, What's Up Media, and WRNR.
Well, there you have it. County Executive Steuart Pittman. If you're listening to this, thank you again very much for having me up to your office on the 4th floor of the Arundel Center. And best of luck as you muddle your way through the first year of your first term in office. We will definitely be back in touch. We love having you on the program, and you're welcome anytime. For listeners, now we know what to look for. We need to watch out for the budget address to see if we've got some increased taxes coming our way. Want to find out what the ultimate resolution is for the 287G program, and see if the county executive has any more changes in senior staff. We do know that he's got a new health officer in the works, along with a good working relationship with the city of Annapolis. If nothing else, it is just a different approach than what we had the prior 4 years. And that's going to sort of wrap it up for the Maryland Crabs this week. Please make sure you're checking out our website at themarylandcrabs.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast, or you can go onto Facebook. We've got a Facebook page and a Facebook group, all under the Maryland Crabs Podcast. And real important, if you get someplace where you can give us a rating or a review, please do that. A rating is real easy. You just click 5 stars or 4. A review takes a little bit more effort. Then you've got to click another button and then type something nice about us. But if you've been listening for 100 and some odd episodes, you must be a fan. So go on down and give us a rating and a review. Of course, you can email us at info@themarylandcrabs.com. And if you're not aware, we do have a text line that you can call and leave a voicemail message or send us a text message. And that number is 443-266-3600. That will wrap it up for this week. You want to tune in next week. We've got a really heartbreaking story. We spoke with a young man named Omarian White, who was arrested in Annapolis and charged with attempted second-degree murder. He spent 4 months in jail and ultimately was found not guilty, with the judge saying that the police got it wrong. We talk a little bit about his case, a little bit about the lawsuit against the city, but more importantly, how this false arrest has impacted his life. Not to give you a spoiler, but the guy might have been headed for the NFL. All that's coming up next week. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next Thursday.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.